What's up guys, this is Seville, and today I'm going to give you an in-depth tour into my personal toy collection, featuring franchises such as DC, Marvel, WWE, Power Rangers, and Mortal Kombat. All made from various brands such as Mattel, NECA, Storm Collectibles, and Hasbro. If you enjoyed this video, please give it a thumbs up and comment below, and if you want to see more from me, please subscribe and hit that notification bell. I keep all my figures organized by brand and or franchise. I'm going to move through my tour room from left to right, which means I'm starting with NECA and a little bit of McFarlane. I was a huge fan of the Matrix trilogy, so I do have most of those figures. One of my general rules as a collector is that I only keep one per character. Neo was the only exception for the Matrix, and I do have a few other characters that are exceptions to that rule as well. I don't count that when it comes to aliens and predators though, because they're technically all different characters. But then when it comes to characters like Michael, Jason, Freddy, I'm only going to have one per character on those. If a newer one comes out that I like better, I'll sell or trade off the older one. Moving on to my DC figures, most of these are just going to be from the newer movies, as part of Mattel's DC Multiverse line. I have considered making the leap to Mafex or one of the other high quality brands. It's just not quite that high of a priority for me right now. When it comes to these figures though, I do tend to keep the heroes and the villains separate from each other. I might be a little OCD about the way I organize things. That is, until I get to the DC TV figures. They're all together on one shelf. In case you can't tell, these are not Mattel. These are made by DC Collectibles. I honestly hope they make some more this year, because I'd really like to have some more of the villains. Overall, my number one favorite character is Superman. Therefore, he gets to break my rule about there only being one figure per character. It's mostly one per costume, but when it comes to the classic Trunks costumes, I'll have different ones from different artists. And then on my second shelf here, I have all comic book based enemies and allies. Then on the bottom shelf, I have all the figures from different mediums such as movies, TV, and video games. I do have a small bunch of 1/18 scale cars, but they're mostly from the Knight Rider TV shows. I am most definitely a child of the 80s, and Knight Rider was certainly my favorite TV show back then. I can remember being a toddler running to the living room anytime I heard that theme music playing. And even though the 2008 show was nowhere near as good as the original, I was still happy to see it on TV in any form. The Mustang versions of Kit and Car were never officially released as Knight Rider products, so I just went ahead and bought some basic ones that were already pretty close to being show accurate, and then painted in the colors for the scanners. Moving on to my Marvel Legends figures, I do have all the ones from the Netflix shows that have made it to a wide release, but with all their cancellations, I don't really see us getting any more. And I do have most of the ones from the Marvel Cinematic Universe, where again, my one figure per character rule does apply, and I do mostly keep the heroes separated from the villains. On the villain side, I do still need to get Ultron and the Mandarin. Moving on though, now it's time to look at the set that was totally new to me last year, Storm Collectibles. I started with Reptile from Mortal Kombat and quickly became addicted. I also have Hayachi from Tekken. I will definitely be adding more and more from that brand as the year goes on. However, a brand that I won't be getting much more from is Bandai. I do have a lot from the Power Rangers Legacy line, but that line is ending soon. Hasbro will be taking over the brand with a newly formed Lightning collection that focuses on older series, but the only official statements so far have been about figures, nothing about Megazords or weapons. They have shown off the White Ranger though, which I will eventually do a comparison video to this White Ranger so that we can see all the differences. I do have a very small Star Wars Black Series collection, but that's really only because they got marked down to $5 at Walmart last year. I never reviewed any of them because they'd already been out for a while when I did get them. And now, for the biggest part of my collection, wrestling. I don't actually know when the first time was that I watched wrestling. My dad was a wrestling fan, so it's simply been a part of my life for as long as I can remember. If you look toward the back row here, you can see a lot of the characters from the 70s and 80s. But these are all figures from the newer Mattel lines, mostly from the Elite Collection, and a handful of basics for the women. I do hold to the one per character rule, with the exception of Kane and The Undertaker. The Brothers of Destruction are my all-time favorites. Aside from the shelves, I do have a full-scale ring and arena setup. My current display setup is pretty much inspired by the upcoming Royal Rumble pay-per-view. but my take on it is a little bit more extreme. Technically, as long as they don't go over the top rope and then to the floor, they can use whatever weapon they choose. Most of the time this doesn't happen, but I can really remember 2001 being the Rumble where they brought in all the hardcore tools. I also did a similar setup for the women, since as of last year, they have their own Rumble match as well. And with all that said, this is the end of my collection tour. I'll probably do an updated version next January as well. Hope you guys have enjoyed it. Thank you guys for watching, and if you like this video,
Get over here!
and subscribe to Civilian Collectibles.